Today, I'm going to be showing you Murf AI, one of the best AI text-to-speech voice generators. Whether you need a voice for digital marketing, your online course, or even one of those TikTok Reddit videos, Murf AI has you covered. And I want to give a big thank you to Murf AI for sponsoring this video. They gave us a pro account to try out, and now we can show you all of the cool features that Murf AI has to offer. But just because we're using a pro account does not mean you have to pay. The free account has 10 minutes of audio generation, which is a lot if you're just testing this out. So let's hop right into this video. So once you have created an account, this is the home page that you'll be greeted with. Now you'll see I've done quite a lot of testing down here, but yours shouldn't have any real projects here. And if you'll take a look down here, you'll see that I still have 4 hours and 3 minutes left after all of this testing that I've already done. So even just 10 minutes, it's really hard to chew through unless if you're doing some really big projects. But to start your first project, you're going to go up here to create project, and then you can name your project. I'll just do video audio 1 here. And then if you have multiple folders, you can organize those in folders. I didn't make any folders just because I didn't feel the need to. And then you can choose between these recommended options depending on if you're doing audio or video. These don't really affect the outcome or what you're able to do. It's more of just to help this, figure out what project you're specifically working on. So I'm just going to do blank since they don't really do anything. Then you just hit create project. And then from there, you'll be brought to this homepage, which is where you'll be spending most of your time. Now, one of my favorite things about Murf AI is how simple it is to use. It's very intuitive. You can see enter your text here. You enter your text and then you hit the play button. So I had ChatGPT generate me some sentences. So we're just going to be using those for this video. So here's the sentence that we're going to generate, and then you just hit this generate audio. And that took just a few seconds to do, so let's go ahead and preview it.
As the debate raged on, it became clear that finding a middle ground would be more challenging than initially thought, given the complexity of the issues at hand.
So as you can see, that is really good. This sounds really good for an AI text-to-speech, and the technology just keeps getting better by the day. Then if I wanted to add another sentence to this dialogue, you can just hit enter and then paste in or type your next sentence. Now you'll notice that this play button is filled in while this one is not. The play buttons that are not filled in mean that they haven't been generated. So you click on them to generate them and then they'll become filled in like this. And you'll see that because both of these are filled in, that means this one's filled in because this represents both of these. But if we were to add another one, this would become grayed out. So let's go ahead and just play this one because we already listened to this one.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
So yeah, I think this model does a great job at this, but they have a bunch of different voices to choose from and a bunch of different languages to choose from. And they have a lot of filtering that you can do with this as well if you wanted to choose specific age groups, for example, or voice styles like terrified. So let's go ahead and preview Rachel here.
Voice recordings can be tough. I remember the time I was waiting for weeks just to get this project done.
So I think this is pretty good. Let's select this and see how this one does. And you'll see we have to regenerate these audios just because it's a new voice, and then let's play it and see how it sounds.
As the debate raged on, it became clear that finding a middle ground would be more challenging than initially thought, given the complexity of the issues at hand. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
And I actually think that sounds really good for this terrified. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. And what's really cool is a lot of these voices have multiple different voice styles. So just because that one was terrified doesn't mean that they all have to be. We could do excited and see how that one does.
As the debate raged on, it became clear that finding a middle ground would be more challenging than initially thought, given the complexity of the issues at hand. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
That one didn't sound the best just because these aren't very exciting sentences, so it sounded a little bit weird, but does a great job at differentiating between the different styles. And you also have a couple other modifiers that you can do, such as pitch. So if we wanted to drop down the pitch a lot, we could do that.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
Or if we wanted to really speed it up, we could try that too.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
And what we can also do is add pauses. So let's say we wanted to add a pause between fox and jumps. We could hit add pause, and then we can choose how long we want this pause to be. So we could do like really short pauses or really long, or just enter in, your own value there. Oh, that's too long. I guess you could go up to 5 seconds. Let's go extra strong just for dramatic effect and see how this sounds.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
So that could definitely be very useful if you're wanting to add like a dramatic pause, or you just want pauses to be emphasized when listing things or anything like that. Now, this last option is pronunciation. Now, this is the tool that I think makes Murf AI stand out from the rest, and that is it allows you to change the pronunciation of very specific words to make the whole sentence feel much more natural. So I think in this sense, the most unnatural sounding thing about it is this last word, hand. This last sentence has an up intonation when I want it to have a down intonation. I don't want it to sound hand. I want it to sound hand. So what you can do is select the word and hit pronunciation. And then you'll have all of these different previews. Sometimes there'll be less, sometimes there'll be more, depending on the word. And so I can go through each of these suggestions and say, I wonder if this one's going to be any good. So you got to generate the preview and then let's listen to this one.
Hand.
I think that sounds pretty good. So let's go ahead and just check this and see how it goes. And you'll see that this is now highlighted in red to indicate that there has been an adjustment. And then we can hit regenerate the audio. And then let's see how that sounds.
As the debate raged on, it became clear that finding a middle ground would be more challenging than initially thought, given the complexity of the issues at hand.
I think that sounds much better. It's much more of like a neutral intonation than like a high intonation. So that is exactly, what I was looking for. And what you could do is you could go through every single word and make it sound exactly how you want to make this sentence sound as natural as possible. And over time, I'm sure this option in this tool will become so much easier to use, where you can mostly just hit a button and then it'll automatically do all of this for you. As of right now, you sort of have to go in individually, but luckily you don't even have to do too many. Like this, in this whole sentence, only one word sounded, off. And even then it wasn't like the most off sounding word. You could easily add another sentence to make it, make the up intonation sound correct. Now you'll notice that there's a timeline down here at the bottom of the screen. Now, just for audio and just for very simple things, you probably don't really need to concern yourself too much with this. However, Murf AI allows you to make actual videos, which can become very complex once you have more and more sentences being generated. So let's say, for example, we wanted to add a video. Go ahead to this timeline button down at the bottom left, click it, and then it'll expand into these bars. And you can see the audio bar right here, which is what we already have. And then there's this video bar, and you can click this plus button and it'll bring you right here where you can upload things or import URLs. If you had clicked on the music button, you could add stock music, or you can add stock images or stock videos. So relating to our conversation, let's just look up something with an argument. And these stock images and videos are powered by Pexels, which is royalty free. So you can use these in your YouTube videos. Now, I think this one is really cool. So I'm going to click it and then hit add to timeline, and you can trim it if you'd like. And then you'll see that it was added to your timeline. And you'll see down here, this is where you can add music if you wanted music in here as well. I'm not going to add music. I don't want music in this preview, but you can do that if you would like. So to start, I'm going to click on this and drag this to sort of fit the text here. And then I'm going to click this build to preview button. And what that's going to do is it's going to put all of this together where you can hit play and a preview is going to show up here.
Finding a middle ground would be more challenging than initially thought, given the complexity of the issues at hand. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
So as you can see, this would become a very useful tool if you're looking for something that can do text to speech as well as just import basic video. Now you should keep in mind, this isn't an advanced editing software like Premiere Pro. You're going to have to stick to very basic, clips like stock video from stock video, but this can definitely be a very big start if you don't need anything super advanced. Now, if you look over to the left side here, you'll see a few different options. Now this import script we'll check out in a little bit. Add media, this is where you can just add and access all of the media here to just sort of pick what you want. And this is where you can also upload stuff as well. This translate option is an additionally paid option. So if you're doing like a lot of big project files, you can do this if it's something that you would need. And so that leaves the voice changer. Basically, all this is a transcription tool. So from here, you bring in your audio file and then you just check the language, hit yes, and then all it will do is basically just transcribe your audio. So it's not actually a voice changer. It just converts your voice to text and then gives you, you can select whatever voice model you want. And so that's how it works. And so as you can see, it sort of just imported the text that we had that was from the audio file. And then you'll see that there was an error as far as like this doesn't match the same audio file. You just sort of hit accept and let it do its thing. And then you can hit save, and then boom, it's just like what this was. So overall, there's not a whole lot with that as of right now. We'll see if they do expand to an actual voice changer feature. Mostly that's just a transcription feature. Now, what you could do if you wanted the actual audio in here, so say, you were doing like a podcast edit and you had a jingle, you could click this button and then bring in your jingle, and then it'll actually drop the jingle in here. It won't be this, it'll just be an audio file that you can play, and then it'll just play in line with your other texts. Now, the last thing I want to touch on in this file in particular is the emphasis tool. When you click on this, it'll bring up this, where you can add nodes to sort of adjust what emphasis you want to have. So just sort of to give you a test to see, what each thing does, if we just alternate here, let's just do this to sort of show you what this emphasis tool really does.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
So that was a bit of an extreme example. Let's go ahead and sort of tone it down a little bit. Let's say we want the quick brown fox.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog.
So it definitely sounds a little artificial when you do this, because it's still something that they are working on, and it will get better as the technology gets a little bit better. But it is nice that we have this very exact editing that we can use if we want to, if it like very specifically helps what we're looking for. But otherwise, I would wait. I think the pronunciation is a better fix than this. If you're doing something that needs a lot more detail, you can definitely mess around with this. Now, there are a few other things that I didn't showcase down here specifically with the editor, but it's very intuitive. So, you can figure that out on your own. Let's go ahead and go back to the home page and test out the script feature. So if we hit new project and we just call this video script, and then say this is a podcast, and then we hit create project. Now what we could do is hit import script and then just drag in your text file, and then it'll just import it very nicely. Now, this is not 100% automatic. You do have to do a little bit of manual work. However, this makes it very easy to do so. So first, you have a few different options. You can split script by paragraphs. You can have split script by sentences, or don't split, and then it would just be a giant text, which I would not recommend. And splitting script by sentences is really best if there's only one speaker in the script. So if you're just doing a solo video, that's good for this. However, if you're doing one with multiple speakers, it's best to split the script by paragraphs, because if you have each speaker separated by a paragraph, then you'll have separate paragraphs for each speaker. And the default for this is to split the sentences, but if you didn't want to split it and just have them all in this one, then you could do that as well. However, I think splitting the sentences is actually the better move, which is, why it's the default, because it just gives you a little bit more flexibility with what you can do and just makes it work a little bit better in my experience. So honestly, the default setting works best for me with this particular script. So then you just hit import script, and then boom, we got it in here. Now, the two things that we immediately have to fix is, one, we have to get rid of these speakers, but also we have to change each speaker depending on who is speaking. So we can see by this first speaker is named Alex. So let's just go pick someone that sort of looks like they might be an Alex. We can just do Dylan, I guess. And then maybe we'll just do newscast, because that sort of fits, the news. I mean, it's a podcast, newscast. That's pretty similar. So whenever Alex is speaking, which is pretty much every other paragraph, we'll just go in here and select Dylan, and then just choose it to newscast. Now, one feature that I would love to see Murf AI add is to have voice profiles that you can sort of select. You can do apply voice to entire project, but that doesn't, like if you have multiple speakers, you have to go in and edit it manually. But if you could just have like two options here between voice profile 1, voice profile 2. If it's a podcast, then you just click the 1, click the 2, click the 1, click the 2. It makes it very easy. So I think that would be a great feature for them to add in the future. But either way, it doesn't take that long to go do this. But if you do have, an hour-long podcast, that might take a bit of time. So now we have all of the Alexes filled out. Now I'm just going to do the Jordans with basically the exact same thing. And then I'm going to delete all of these, because these were more for just my reference to see which paragraph was who. So I'll delete that, and then I'll see you when I have that all done. Okay, so there we go. I got rid of the initial first name, And then I chose just 2 people to, represent our people in this podcast, which is a fictional podcast, by the way. This was generated by ChatGPT. This was not made by me. And so if we click into one of these paragraphs, you can edit it how you usually would. Same thing with every other one. But I'm just going to do a quick preview. We'll preview like the first 2 blocks because it is quite long. It's 3 minutes long. But we'll just start with the first 2. So I'm going to hit this build preview, and then it's going to generate all of them, which is fine. But really, we're only going to use the first 2. So now that this has all been filled out, let's go ahead and hit this play button.
Welcome back to Tech Trends, the podcast where we dive deep into the latest in technology. I'm Alex, and joining me as always is Jordan. Today, we're tackling a topic that's on everyone's mind: artificial intelligence. Jordan, it's incredible to see how far AI has come, isn't it?
Absolutely, Alex. We've seen AI evolve from simple algorithms capable of performing basic tasks to complex systems that can drive cars, diagnose diseases, and even create art. It's a field that's not just changing the tech landscape, but reshaping our world.
Speaking of changes, one of the most
So by default, this does an amazing job with just very little adjustment as far as like choosing the people and whatnot. But if we wanted to push this to its limits again, we could go in here and listen and choose very specific words that sort of sound a little odd, double click it, hit pronunciation, and choose the pronunciation that you think fits best. And if you do that, which granted it would take a long time manually, but if you do that, you'll get a really realistic sounding voice, which can be used anywhere. So that was the import script feature, which I think is a very powerful feature. I do think there could be a few new additions to it. Overall, it definitely simplifies the whole process of importing a giant file. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on in this video is other languages, and specifically Japanese, just because I know a little bit of Japanese. I'm not fluent, but I am decent. And Japanese is the only other language that I speak, and because I had ChatGPT generate these sentences, I wanted to make sure that they actually meant what they were saying, and I can verify that they do. ChatGPT has actually gotten really good at generating Japanese sentences, which I can't say for, a year ago. But anyway, let's click on this file. I've already got, quite a few voices here that I was testing with earlier that I wanted to show you. And as far as the Japanese voices, they have 5, and there are various numbers of voices depending on the language. So for French, you've got way more, but maybe for Arabic, they've only got 5 again. So it sort of just depends on the language, but I imagine they will keep expanding these libraries as people use them. So you can expect this number to increase. Now, like I said, I am not fluent in Japanese. However, these voices sound really good. Now, I can't speak for the other languages as far as how they sound, but these you could probably convince some people that these were actual people talking. So let's go ahead and preview this first one. I haven't made any adjustments to it. This is just straight from ChatGPT.
私たちは来週会議で話し合うべきです。今日の天気はどうですか？昨日新しい本を読み始めました。人工知能が倫理的な問題にどう対処すべきかは大きな議論のトピックです。
Like, imagine having this for Vocaloid music. Here's the next one.
今日は晴れています。朝から鳥の声が聞こえます。私は毎朝コーヒーを飲みながら新聞を読むのが好きです。今日は友達と公園に行く予定です。公園は家から近いので歩いて行けます。友達と会うのは久しぶりなのでとても楽しみです。
So like I said, these voices sound very fluent, at least in my opinion. Like they sound, way better than I do when I speak Japanese as far as my accent goes. And I feel like my accent isn't terrible. I mean, it's definitely noticeable, but I feel like, there's only a very slight, variation of like almost roboticness, but overall, I feel like some of these Japanese voices are better than some of the English counterparts. So I think you get the idea. I'll play this last one just to give you one last example, but overall, these are very good.
私の趣味は絵を描くことと音楽を聴くことです。週末になるとよく部屋で絵を描きます。風景や動物を描くのが好きです。音楽は仕事をするときや勉強をするときに聴きます。ジャズやクラシックが特に好きです。趣味は私の生活に色を加えてくれます。
Now, the final thing I would like to show you to wrap up this video is how to export your files. Now, you do need a paid subscription to export, but if you are exporting anyway, you are probably going to be using this for more advanced stuff, so you'd probably be paying for a subscription anyway. So to export, you go up to this export button, click it, and then you have a few different options. Now you can choose video, voice only, voice plus music, or script. And in each, you have multiple different options as far as what you would like. So for example, for voice only, you could generate an MP3 just with a single file. You could have it generate multiple files based off of the different blocks, or you could have split by sub-blocks, which would create a single file for each line. Then you could choose the quality, the channel, the format, and then you can choose the format for videos, or for voice and music, you have the same options aside from they have to be a single file. And then for the script, this would just generate basically just a text file that you could split with the blocks if you wanted to generate just text files with that, or SRTs for, if you're doing, like, say, for example, a video where you're wanting to have animated subtitles. This would be very helpful for that. But yeah, overall, the export, they give you a ton of options to make it very good for you to just use in all of your projects. So this was really just scratching the surface with what Murf can do. So there's tons more that you should just try out and play around with. And again, big thanks to Murf AI for allowing us to have access to a pro plan and show you all of the cool features that offers. And to discover more cool AI tools like this, check out our website at ai-search.io.